Bora es hashamayim v'es ha'oretz. God who created the heavens and the earth. Like, isn't that the bigger miracle that you created the heavens and the earth? Didn't that make God big, right? That He created the heavens and the earth. Why do we say that God took us out of Eretz Yisrael? You ever heard this?
Keep going.
Okay, the answer is like this, right? Because nobody who was alive at that time saw the heavens being created. They never saw the universe being created. So He says, "I'm God." Do the James Earl Jones voice.
I can't do the voice.
I'm God, and I just created the stars. Everybody being like, "That's nice," because they didn't see it happening. So how do we know you're telling the truth? How do we know it wasn't some other God that did that? But He says, "I'm God that took you out of Mitzrayim just now." Whoa, that we were there and we saw it. We were all there. Wow, that's big because we know that happened. Right? It's not like you're telling us some story.
This is the cup that Tamara drank out of. Keep going.
You know, it's not like you're telling us some story from, how do we know we didn't...
Her mouth was probably...
We didn't evolve from apes or some other nonsense. Some other...
Her lips caressed the edges of this cup.
Did she give you a back rub?
Then my chest.
Alright, let's move on. Oh, then you asked me another question, didn't you?
Does it matter whether or not the Exodus occurred historically?
Of course!
Or if it's just a metaphor?
There's no
way
room.
for God to teach us.
Wait a second. There's no room for metaphor anywhere in the Torah unless we are told specifically that this is metaphor. This idea that you can just pass some things off as metaphor is Pragerism, and it goes together with eating shrimp in Cincinnati.
Okay, good.
There is no metaphor.
In the Exodus from Egypt, the Israelites are like a new creation. The creation
True.
of the universe began in Genesis. This is a new start for humanity. The words used for the Israelites multiplying and spreading out, the same words used in the beginning of Genesis for creation taking root. According to the Art Scroll Chumash, in the context of resisting the corruptive atmosphere of Egypt, preserving the moral and spiritual grandeur of Jacob's family, his sons were equal to the task. As they kept the nation on the high level set for it by Jacob, the slavery did not begin as long as they were alive. His grandchildren, their merit was great enough to prevent the onset of the enslavement as long as they were alive. You buy this?
Of course.
It's like, so when these really righteous Jews are there in Egypt, then you can't have slavery? Like when Jacob and Joseph and his children and even their grandchildren were there, because they were so righteous, we couldn't have slavery?
Yeah, why not?
But like, look at Europe in the Shoah.
What's that got to do with this?
It's the same thing.
No, it's got nothing to do with this.
In the Shoah, the religious Jews are most likely to die.
What is that got to do with this?
How is like righteous Jews going to stop slavery just because they're there? Just their presence.
Because God said, look, in the schus of Yaakov and the schus of Yosef, I'm not going to let anything happen while they're alive. These are holy, holy tzaddikim. They shouldn't see these terrible things while in their lifetime, and in their schus, I'll let them die first before anything bad happens to their ancestors or their descendants.
So what do you think about the Gedolim of Europe, such as
Chafetz Chaim
and Alchanan Wasserman, who told Jews, don't leave Europe and go to America because it's a treacher country.
Okay.
Consequently, millions of them died needlessly.
Okay, can I?
Yes.
I think the Chafetz Chaim is a great example. He died in 1933. God did not let all the Surahs start in Germany until after 1933. Chafetz Chaim died, he never saw any of the Holocaust. I think it's entirely plausible to conclude that God withheld the Holocaust until after the Chafetz Chaim died. You just proved the opposite of your point.
Interesting.
Now, the idea that telling the Jews to stay in
Europe.
Okay,
So
I have a
America.
personal stake in this, and you know that because you read my book. But my great-great-grandfather, can I tell it?
Mm-hmm.
My great-great-grandfather, I'm a ben acher ben, I'm a son after a son. His name was Rabbi Reamer, right? And he had Ruach HaKodesh, because they still had Ruach HaKodesh back then, and he foresaw in the 1880s, what's going on over here? Nobody's watching this, right?
Don't worry. Yeah, everyone's there. We've got like 10 people in the chat
In the 1880s, I guess, in the late 1800s, he was the Rav Hayer, he was the rabbi of an entire city in Lithuania. And he told everybody that there's going to be two, not one, he told everybody there's going to be 2 world wars coming up in Europe. And he told everyone not to leave, that they should stay in Europe because it's better to be in Europe and live like a Jew than go to America and have your kids, your descendants, grow up not Jewish. Because the great fear back then is that there wasn't anything here yet. There was no yeshivas really set up in the 1800s, right?
Mm-hmm.
There was nothing for them here. There was no Jewish community. They would come here, they'd end up marrying shiksas and getting back rubs and getting wood, right? He foresaw that. So he said everybody should stay. The only reason I'm alive today is because one of his sons didn't listen to him. Because his entire family, all his descendants, stayed in Europe, and they all got wiped out. That city that he was the Rav of doesn't exist today. There's just a tombstone there in memory of all the Jews who were annihilated who lived there. So all of my family, my extended family, was annihilated in Europe, right? For everybody except for like my immediate lineage. You know what I'm saying? Like my father and my grandfather. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
You're following it?
Yeah.
Why do I bring this up? Because I live with a lot of guilt from this, right? Because his son disobeyed his orders,
Right.
went to America, took all, said, screw it, I'm going to America, fuck this is ridiculous, I'm not staying here to get killed. And he left and came to America, and he's the only one, his family, his descendants are the only ones who are still alive, right? So I feel guilty because I should have died in the Holocaust. I should have died there, right? So I'm living with a lot of guilt. So when you pick that out, obviously that's a sore spot. I know you saw it because it's in my book. By the way, I'll just interject. The Jews, I don't know if we own this, but it's very common amongst Jews to feel guilty for being alive. Sfardim, I don't care where you live. If you're a Sfard, you feel guilty for being alive. Because they know that they should have died in the Inquisition. Right? Sfardim know they're dealing with that somebody in their family did something to keep themselves alive during the Inquisition, right?
Yeah.
So they feel guilty about it. I know a lot of Sfardim who don't feel comfortable talking about the Inquisition because they know, like, they're descendants from people who did something wrong, right? They were schmad or whatever, right? So the only people who feel guilty about being alive are, well, I shouldn't say the only, but it's very common amongst Jews that we feel guilty for being alive, and I deal with some of that. Okay, now what's the point I brought this up for? I know when the Chofetz Chaim, the Rabbi Elchanan Wasserman, the Or Elchanan said, stay in Europe, they were not wrong. They were right. Here's why. But this is actually an argument I've had with my sister. Can I go through it?
Yeah.
If you stay in Europe and your kids remain from, everyone is learning Torah and whatever, and then you march into the camps on your feet and you die a Kiddush Hashem. And it says in the Torah that if you die Moiser Nefesh, what do you call it? A martyr.
Mm-hmm.
You go straight to Gan Eden. You go straight to heaven, right?
72 virgins.
72 virgins, the whole 9 yards, right? So those people lived on their feet. They studied Torah. They went as a Jew and they died. They went straight to heaven. The people who didn't stay in Europe went to America. Here, we deal with assimilation. You end up marrying shiksas and getting back rubs and chest rubs. Chest rubs, mind you.
Then down to my stomach.
Down to your belly, right?
That's when the problem. I was strong when she was doing my chest. It's when her hands started touching my stomach. It's
right.
Like
But the thing is, you're not really part of this, which is true, by the way. I think the reason why you wrote a lot of this stuff on your blog, because you don't feel it, because you don't have Jewish family that goes back to the Holocaust, and Jewish family that goes to the Inquisition. So whether you're Ashkenaz or you're Sfard, there was some sort of Holocaust in your past, and it's something that's brought down, and you deal with this guilt your entire life. So for me, it's 50 years of feeling guilty. You've never felt this. You're just looking at it from an outsider. You don't feel the guilt of staying alive and understanding that it's better to die than it is to be alive. Okay, so to die a Kiddush Hashem and go to the Holocaust is a good thing. In fact, those people didn't die, the Tzaddikim and the Firmis who died, they didn't die worthlessly or needless. It wasn't like a worthless, how do you say, like without...
Needlessly.
No, these people died at tikkuning. These were tikkuning. They needed to come back and they needed to die at Kiddush Hashem so they could get into Gan Eden. These were people who would not have gotten to Gan Eden if they didn't come back down here for this. It's like they tried to get to the Gan Eden in the prior lifetime, and God said, no, you're not ready. What do you need to do? You need to come back as a Kiddush Hashem. You need to come back as a Moiser Nefesh. So you